I'll begin with Jai Radha Mother. Continue with that. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram. Jaya Nityananda Mahajan Nityananda Mahajan Nityananda Mahajan Nityananda Mahajan. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande Haribo. Radha Kala Chanji ki jai. Gaur Nitai ki jai. Hare Krishna. I just want to say it's so encouraging to see so many children here. And it was a beautiful performance today by them. And all hats off to the wonderful team here who runs the school. Nitya Kishori and her team. Thank you. So I'll say a few prayers and then I'll begin Nityananda Katha today. Some sweet pastimes of Lord Nityananda. It's such a wonderful, special day today. Om Agyan Tirandasya Gyananjana Shilakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Enaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandika Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So I was thinking that I'll begin with a little story of Sachi Mata's dream, which kind of establishes who Nityananda is and who Gauranga is. Okay, so you may have heard the story. It's a very sweet little story. So Sachi Mata had a dream one day. And so the next day, she called, she said, hey, oh Vishambar, oh Gauranga, I had a dream yesterday. And in that dream, both you and your brother and friend Nityananda, you were walking out of the altar room. Now she had Krishna Balram deities, you know. And she said, you were walking out and in your hand, Gauranga, in your hand was Balaram, and in Nityananda's hand was Krishna. And there was the deities, Krishna and Balaram, they were arguing with you all. They were upset because you were taking them out of the altar. They said, wait a minute, this is my home. You need to put me back there. I like to eat Sachi Mata's sweets, sweetmeats and curd. How can you cannot take me? And Nityananda Prabhu said, wait a minute, your days are gone. Now this is the day for Lord Gauranga. He's my master. And of course, Krishna and Balaram, they got really upset and they said, if you don't leave me back there, I'm going to punish you. And I'm going to give, I'm going to just do something really bad. Anyway, and so, and of course, Nityananda Ram was not fazed at all. And in the meantime, Sachi Mata woke up with with Lord Nityananda, telling her that, Mother, can you please give me food? And that kind of woke her up after that. And Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, oh, Mother, this is such a wonderful dream. It means our deities, Krishna and Balaram, they're very potent. And I remember that when one day when I was taking the food off the altar, then I noticed that half the food was gone. And I was thinking, my beloved wife, Vishnu Priya, she was eating that, the food quietly. But now I see that Krishna and Balaram are actually in our house. You know, they have appeared here, and they are the ones who are obviously eating it. So like that, and then he told his mother, he says, Mother, you promised Nityananda for food, so I better go and get him. Remember, it was a dream. So he goes to get Lord Nityananda, and in the meantime, Mother Sachi prepared her dishes. And of course, along the way, as Lord Nityananda is coming back, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he's warning him. He says, wait a minute, you're going to my house. Now, behave nicely, okay? I have a respectable mother and I have a respectable wife. Don't you misbehave. Don't you become crazy. And of course, Lord, so they were always jesting and really, joyful. And of course, and Nityananda Ram said, oh, no, Vishnu, I don't do that crazy things. I never do that. I do things that's always appropriate. So in this way, they would have their, sweet, back and forth. And Lord Nityananda came, and of course, Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, they danced together. And then the food was prepared, and Sachi Mata made plans to feed them, and she did. And then and of course, it was so good, from her own motherly hands, you can imagine, that she went back in for a second round with a plate full of prasadam. And as she's coming inside, she sees that instead of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda sitting there, who was sitting there? Krishna and Balaram. Krishna with his beautiful lotus eyes and a peacock feather and a flute tucked in and blackish. And of course, Balaram with like a spring white cloud, they say, and with a plow like that. And so she sees that, and she's so surprised, and she actually falls unconscious, just looking at that beauty and realizing that her own children were none other than Krishna and Balaram. She didn't know that. And so that was a big shock for her. And so she actually, fell down unconscious, out of ecstasy. She was crying. And of course, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he took his own form, and he went to his mother and said, what happened, mother? Did you see something? What happened? And of course, she couldn't speak anything. She was just crying and crying and crying. And she went in, and she went into her room. So anyway, so this shows kind of who Lord Nityananda is, right? He's none other than Balaram, and Krishna, and Gauranga Prabhu is Krishna, right? So in this way, we understand. And of course, we need to talk a little bit about the Nityananda Tattva. So Krishna's original expansion is Balaram. And Balaram, he himself becomes the spiritual world. We understand that Nityananda's role in Krishna's pastime Leela is practically, he monopolized practically every seva. You can imagine, right? And it's very meaningful for us, right? Because we are in the process of learning how to serve. And here we see such a wonderful example that Lord Nityananda himself is showing this how to serve, right? So it is Balaram who becomes the Lord of Vaikuntha, Narayan. And it is Nityananda who again expands into the three Purusha incarnations. As the creator, Mahavishnu, Karanadakshaya Vishnu, and then he expands again as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and then as Shirodakshaya Vishnu. So in other words, how do we understand this? Nityananda is the source of all the creations, right? When you learn about the three Purusha incarnations, you learn that from the incarnations come from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Sometimes it says Shirodakshaya Vishnu. And Prabhupada says it's not in conflict, because Kshirodakshaya Vishnu comes from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So whether they're coming from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu or Kshiro, they're the same. So in other words, Nityananda is the source of all these incarnations. Okay, and then of course he also expands as the snake-like form of the Lord, and that is Anantashesha, right? And that provides the bed for the Lord. The Lord rests over there. So Lord Nityananda expands into, he becomes the slippers of the Lord, he becomes the umbrella, he becomes just so many paraphernalia, right? The musical instruments, we know, the mridanga, kartals. Right? So, and Anantashesha, one thing about him is that he's got these thousands of hoods, and on each hood, as you know, is he holds a universe, and there's millions of them. And from his mouth, he's constantly glorifying the pastimes of the Lord. And it is said that he never repeats any of those glorification. So he's unlimited. The incarnations are unlimited, his glorification is unlimited. So it's another hint that when we sit and glorify the Lord, it is actually what? It's coming from Nityananda, because he is the original person who glorifies the Lord. So in this way, and of course it is said that Lord Chaitanya Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. Okay, he's not an expansion, he's not an incarnation, really, he's Krishna himself. Okay, and so in that sense we understand that the reason is because he has 100% of the qualities of Krishna. He possesses 100% of the qualities of Krishna. Now we have so many incarnations, right? Some of them have a certain percentage of the qualities of Krishna. Not all these incarnations, which is like unlimited, not all of these incarnations have 100% of the qualities of Krishna. They have a part, a small part, right? Some this and that, different potencies, like Prithu Maharaj had the ruling potency, right? Like that. So many incarnations. So, but Gauranga Mahaprabhu has 100% of the qualities of Krishna. So he's none other than Krishna himself. So in this way we understand that, and Nityananda is non-different from Gauranga in the sense that he has 100% of the qualities of Krishna also, right? Nityananda Ram also has 100% of these qualities. So in this way, so what is the difference between them? One would think, oh, maybe the difference is the color. Yeah, but really that is not the difference. Not really a difference, right? So what is the real difference is that Krishna, he's the supreme enjoyer. Okay, it says he's the sevaya, which means he takes worship. He's the supreme enjoyer. Okay, and Nityananda Ram, he's a sevaka. In other words, he's the supreme personality of Sarvata Godhead. So which means that he is non-different from Krishna. In other words, Balram is non-different from Krishna. But yet there's a difference, and the main difference is that he's always in the role of a servant, even though he's fully Krishna. So again, it tells us a lot. He's teaching us how to serve, right? So this is the wonderful thing about Lord Nityananda Ram. He's always eager to serve in so many different ways. And so this is the Nityananda Tattva. And then we see the difference is that he likes to serve, right? And so what does Lord Nityananda do? He humbles himself in a very, brings himself to a very humble position of being the servant. A servant is humble, right? So he's the best servant. So in that sense, he's very, very humble. And so Krishna, Balram, came to kill demons. We know that Balram killed 2 major demons, right? And that was Pralambasur and Denakusur, right? But Lord Nityananda doesn't kill. What does he do? He begs the demons, just like Krishna killed the demons, he begged those kind of demons to please take the name of Gauranga, to take the holy name of Krishna. And it's amazing that his mood is so humble that he not only if he sees, of course there are people when they would see Lord Nityananda, they would be so enamored by his beauty. they would immediately want to chant because he was just so beautiful and so powerful. And then, but there were people who had, due to offenses, they could not take the name. Due to offenses, due to lack of piety, all that. So they could not take any, they could not take the name. To them, Lord Nityananda would come with folded hands and beg them to chant the holy name. And even then, if they did not do that, did not listen, then he would roll on the ground with tears coming out of his eyes, with so much compassion, begging them to please take the holy name of the Lord. Such was the mood of Lord Nityananda. So merciful. He just, he's just so very merciful. So in this way, we see that in so many examples we see. Jagai Madai is one wonderful example of how he, Jagai Madai was actually, they were actually Jai and Vijay, right? And they took 3 births as demons. And they were just ascending to go back to the spiritual world, to get back their old positions of being the very confidential servants of the Lord. And right at that time, they heard that Lord Chaitanya had advented in this world. And they immediately wanted to serve as demons. And this Jagai and Madai were among all these demons, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Raman, Kumkaran, like that. They were the worst, the most powerful, and the worst demons. Because Jagai and Madai, is said that they committed so many sinful activities that there's a story about Yamaraj, one time when he heard that Lord Chaitanya had delivered these scoundrels, then Yamaraj wanted to know, how did that happen? He takes note of all the things we do, all the sinful things people do. So he was very amazed. So he went to his assistant, Chitragupta. He's the one who, writes down all the different things, people commit, and then they are, they are judged accordingly, right? So he told us, Chitragupta, that what is the extent of these people's sins? And of course, Chitragupta just shakes his head and he says, unlimited. Actually, my assistants are exasperated and tired of noting down so many of their sins, so much so that all my filing cabinets is full. We had to dig a bottomless pit to throw all these things, all their sinful actions, make note of it and throw them. It was a bottomless pit. In other words, there was no limit to the amount of sins. These 2 people, they were intoxicated, they were, stealing, robbing, raping, so many things. So many, burning people's houses. It said that anybody who came near them, there's no chance he would survive. No chance. People would actually circle them, a big circle, and they would be with crowds of people because nobody had the courage to be alone or even with 5 people. There would be crowds around because they would like to watch them. They were such crazy people, and of course, they were far away. And then if anybody happened to come, they're done with. Of course, we know the story how Lord Nityananda actually goes twice. He goes first time, he goes to them and he asks them to chant the holy name. And of course, they got so angry. You are instructing us? You wait and see. And then, of course, they chased Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur back, and they were running and running. Of course, they're the Lords himself. Who can catch up with them, right? They're running and running, and both Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda, they're kind of joking, He says, Haridas says, you are drunk with love of Krishna. You're always drunk with intoxication of love of Krishna. That is why you spend time with these drunkards. And now see what's happened. We're going to get killed. So in this way, they joke around, of course. And they go to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya gets really upset. And he says, I'm going to go and finish them off. How dare they harass my devotees? And of course, Lord Nityananda goes flat on the Lord Chaitanya's feet. He says, how can you do that? You are a merciful, the most Mahavadanyaya incarnation of the Lord. If you take them, if you kill them, I have no service. I want to show the world the glories of my master, Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And of course, Lord Chaitanya said that if you have forgiven these 2 scoundrels, they are already forgiven. So you can see how merciful Lord Nityananda, he was more merciful than Lord Chaitanya. He's the most merciful, he's more merciful than Lord Chaitanya, right? So this is, you know. So one important thing about Lord Nityananda is that he never judged people by the externals, you know, who they were, you know, whether they had no qualifications to do, you know, to do devotional service or anything like that. He would see the service mood and immediately he would take that. He would take that one spark and fan it and fan it and fan it. Because, you know, and there's a very nice story in this regard. It's about, it was a time when Lord Chaitanya, by the way, he was born in Eka Chakra. I'm sure some of you have gone. It's a super beautiful place. It's so peaceful compared to, you know, Mayapur, ISKCON, you know, when they have Gaur Purnima, it's so crowded, right? You go to Eka Chakra and it's completely peaceful. It's complete. And this is the place where Lord Nityananda was, you know, appeared, right? So when he turned 12, then one sannyasi came and asked Hadai Pandit and his wife Padmavati to let, you know, for charity, you know, and they wanted their son Nityananda to go with them and to travel with them. And of course Hadai Pandit had to agree because he was a sadhu, and of course he died soon after due to separation. And then Lord Nityananda went, and for 20 years he was on pilgrimage. And then he went to Vrindavan and just stayed practically in hiding. And Lord Gauranga had already advented, but the reason why he didn't go is just his humility. He thought, how can I participate in congregational chanting till I get the blessings of Gauranga Mahaprabhu? And so, but finally he goes when he heard that he has started his congregational chanting, and there's a beautiful meeting that he has with Lord Chaitanya at Navadvip. And then he goes, and then at that time, the two brothers, they go, they make their first appearance, and they, you know, of course the meeting is very, very special. You know, they were hugging, embracing, shedding tears. But at a certain point, they both said, well, you know, we can't, I mean, this is good, but this is the love that we are experiencing here today. That is, we are here to share this love, this prema. Lord Nitya, you know, Lord Gauranga, you know, the epitome, the goal of our life is to get Radha Krishna prema, right? And that is very difficult because for that, there's very, very high standards, right? We have to give up all our material desires completely, right? So Gauranga Prabhu, Mahaprabhu, because he's in the form of Radha Krishna combined, Lord Nityananda knew that, and that's why he was leading people towards him, because they knew that if they would worship Lord Gauranga and Lord Nityananda, they would get Radha Krishna love, right? So in this way, you know, he, so anyways, I was talking about this, so then they went on this, they went to the public marketplace to give this love of Godhead to everyone around, right? And then they happened to, as they were going one day, and you know, Lord Chaitanya looked very, very beautiful with his golden form. It said because it's so hot in summer, he was, you know, bare-chested with a chadar and very golden. And at that time, he was not a sannyasi, you know. He had beautiful curly hair, very beautiful. And so they were attracting, as they were going towards all around Navadvip, they were attracting all the people just by their beauty, right? And there was a sannyasi who happened to be, you know, see them going. And he came and he says, he told Gauranga Mahaprabhu, I want to give you a blessing. I want to give you a blessing. Because he was so attracted to him, right? And may you get a nice wife, and may you get some good learning and a lot of money, a lot of fame. And Lord Chaitanya said, oh, what a curse, what a curse. These are forms of entanglement. He was still a married man, but yet, you know, he was saying. Anyway, and so it is for a devotee. So anyway, and this sannyasi said, oh, look at this. Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga. You try to do something nice, you try to give blessings to somebody, and this is how they repay. And he was quite upset, and Lord Nityananda came in between and he said, oh, no, don't worry. This boy Chaitanya, he's a problem. He has a character problem. Only I can control him. Don't worry, don't worry. And the sannyasi gets really happy and he says, oh, yeah, finally a gentleman. Finally a gentleman. You know, so you go, there's a very funny story. And he said, okay, and then because Lord Nityananda is so kind to him, and he accepts his blessings, and then his service mode, rather, right? He's trying to serve by giving that blessing. Then the sannyasi says, can you please come to my home, you know? And please, we would like to offer you some prasadam. And Lord Nityananda immediately agreed. And so he went, and Lord Gauranga followed him. And when he goes to his house, guess what? Who comes out? The sannyasi's wife comes out. And she's got this, and she says, oh, you have guests today? Yes, yes. Which can you make some fruits, cut up some fruits? And she goes in and she cuts up the fruit. And actually Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda actually sit down and eat the fruits. And then of course, he's obviously a renegade. He's a debauchee, this sannyasi. Obviously he's got a wife, you know. So anyway, so so when they eat the fruits, then he comes and says, oh, you want Ananda? You want Ananda? And this thing saying, what is Ananda? What is? Both of them are like really confused. And then finally, then Lord Nityananda says, it's wine. And Lord Chaitanya says, what? And he jumps up and goes straight, both of them go straight to the Ganga, and they dip themselves to purify themselves. So this is a story which is kind of odd, right? But it has a meaning behind it, right? And the meaning is that one has to think why Lord Nityananda allowed, even though both of them, when they saw that the sannyasi had a wife, why didn't they turn back right away? Anybody would, right? You're going to a sannyasi's home and he's got a wife. What do you think, you know? So you have to turn back, right? And you know, and why didn't they immediately turn back and jump into the Ganges, you know? The reason is because of Lord Nityananda, okay? He certainly didn't agree with his blessings, you know, what Lord Gauranga's response was, that it was a curse. But yet, because he saw this service mood in that sannyasi, he did not consider the qualifications as important. That's his extreme mercy, where Lord Nityananda doesn't see whether you're coming from this background or that background, okay? Just like when we see somebody, we try not to see the externals. We see, okay, he's a devotee or she's a devotee. But ultimately we think, look at him. He's got this family. He comes from this kind of family. Look at him. He comes from this country. Like, we start judging that person, right? Immediately. That's, you know, just the conditioning, right, we have. But Lord Nityananda doesn't see that at all. What does he see? The heart. Here is a person who's so eager to serve. Just like Prabhupada, you know, in early days, you know, when somebody came with the bathroom tissue paper, right? And everybody was saying, go, 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 go away. And what did Prabhupada say? No, he's come here to serve. Immediately. So this was Prabhupada's mood also, you know. He had this mood of extreme compassion, you know, where he, you know, in the early days when he came to the Lower East Side, you know, there were hippies, as you know. They saw drugs and sex as a way of peace and tranquility, right? So Prabhupada tolerated everything, right? He saw that spark, that willingness, that spark of wanting to serve, and he fanned it. Right? He didn't consider whether they were, you know, eating meat or whatever, intoxication. None of them could follow any four regulative principles at that time. But Prabhupada didn't consider that at all. Gradually, as they heard the chanting of the holy name, they actually became sadhus. Sadhus of the highest caliber. There was such a need of the brahmanas in ISKCON, you know. The class of brahmanas, Prabhupada initiated them as brahmins, right? And that's a whole controversial thing, right? In India, it was very, very controversial, you know, especially among the smarter brahmins. But do we care? No, we don't care. And the reason is because Lord Nityananda's movement is just so joyful. You know, the followers of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda are always so happy and joyful. So much abundant love, you know. So one part of the culture is the ritualistic culture, right? The most of the Vedas are ritualistic. And the other part of the culture is the movement of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, which is so merciful, so compassionate, wherein the heart overflows with mercy and compassion and love. And that is Lord Nityananda. So this is, again, the mercy incarnation. He's the most merciful incarnation. And Prabhupada had the same mood. And there's one story of Srila Prabhupada that I'd like to share. His mood, this mood of Lord Nityananda that he had, the most merciful. He was so merciful. And so there's a story about one of his disciples called Dhananjaya. And he was Scottish, and he knew British history really well. And Prabhupada also was very well versed in British history. And so both of them would talk endlessly. They actually became very intimate just because, Prabhupada really liked him, and they were discussing a lot. So he was a grahastha, so he was in Vrindavan. So one time Srila Prabhupada told him that, you have a family and you need to maintain them. Why don't you do a business? He said, you order these 50 sets of Gornitai. I think they were the ones with the raisin ones, right? The white raisin. He said, you get that here in Vrindavan, you order them, and then you send it to America, to the book distributors, and they can distribute these Hare Krishna dolls. The white dolls, the raisin ones, right? Raisin ones. So anyway, so he said, okay, and so he thought, his Prabhupada was saying, he said, okay, So in other words, just think of Prabhupada, allowing that, right? So he said, when a distributor gives a book, his service has begun, right? He's taking a book, his service. And once his service is begun, then he can have Gaur-Nitai in their houses. And this was happening. I mean, this is a true story, right? Because his service begins. And this was, again, Prabhupada's mood, very similar to Lord Nityananda. And of course, just like, and he said, the book distributors can say, these are the Hare Krishna souvenirs. Just like you go to some country and they always have souvenirs, right? You go to Africa and they have these African dolls or statues, right? Everywhere they have these souvenirs. So anyway, so he said they can say, and you tell them that if you keep these dolls, they will bring you good luck. They will bring you good luck. And then if they feel even more inspired, they can offer a little water every day to them. And that will bring more good luck, he said. So in this way, Prabhupada, I mean, look at his compassion. He was not looking at people's qualification. In other words, when somebody new comes in the temple, we relax a little bit the rules, right? And then as they are eager to serve, then the rules come. Of course, there has to be rules and regulations for deity worship and everything. After all, Krishna is pure. He's just like the sun, like Prabhupada would give the example. Just like you cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, right? You cannot approach Krishna without becoming pure, right? So the purity has to be there, but that comes gradually. We don't make it into, something which, restricts people from coming into the movement, right? Lord Nityananda's movement was a movement that can embrace the whole world, right? It's all inclusive. Just like a mother. I don't know if you've ever seen a mother with a small child, a newborn child. A newborn child is generally very, not that beautiful, right? The skin and all that is really reddish and all that. But you see how the mother feels about the child, right? It's such a inclusive, it's such a complete, it's such an amazing love, right? And the child may be, as a toddler, may be banging, and you're like, I wish I could do something. But the mother sees everything. Wow, see, he loves that. He loves those sticks. He loves to bang, right? So this was Lord Nityananda's mood. It was all inclusive. Like he never saw fault in anybody. anything would move, he would just go dash there and say, catch that person and ask that person to chant the holy name of the Lord. Such was the mood. And such was Prabhupada's mood. And that is why today we are here, because of this extreme compassion of Srila Prabhupada. Anyway, I don't know what time it is. So a little bit more. A little bit about how Lord Nityananda used kirtan to preach, and his kirtans was so, it was revolutionary, right? One time, just katha, one time he was going to Bengal, and this whole party, because Lord Chaitanya asked him to go back to Bengal and preach over there. So he was going, and it is said that it was so hard for them to get to Bengal because of his ecstatic kirtans. Huh? One time, there was one person, one devotee in the party who stood as Krishna for 9 hours straight. Tried standing there in the form of Krishna for 30 minutes, and that's a lot, right? He was standing there for 9 hours, so ecstatic, and the kirtan around him, and everybody was trying to circle around him and chant and dance. And then, of course, they realized, oh my gosh, are we moving towards the right direction? So they asked somebody, and he said, well, the turn that you were supposed to take to Bengal is 10 kilometers back. So they go back 10 kilometers. And then again, the kirtan and everything was starting, and there's so much, people were just like crazy, going crazy. And then again they asked somebody, they thought, wow, are we going the right way? And then they said, well, it's 5 kilometers forward. So they went too far back. So like that, it was going on back and forth, and finally they got to Bengal. So such used to be Lord Nityananda's kirtan, There's another story of how when he would do kirtan, the chanting of the holy name in Navadvipa, then like whole villages would come and join him. The whole villages would empty out and follow him, right? Somebody's uncle would be missing, and they said, where's uncle? And then they would send the whole delegation to find that uncle, and the whole delegation would disappear. So in this way, and there was a group of young boys who were roaring in kirtan. They were young, like all of you, and they could not, they were not eating or drinking. They were just roaring in kirtan. They were going so wild. And finally what happened is, they got so wild, it said that they were, digging out trees, out of there, getting so wild. And there was the old man who were lame, they were walking with a stick, and they were jumping so high that they would jump as high and get on the branches. I mean, how is that except for the wonder potency of Lord Nityananda? And then they would be on the branches and right on the edge of the branches, and they wouldn't fall down. Right? So this was Lord Nityananda's kirtan. He would attract people just by the holy name, and this is what Srila Prabhupada gave us, on a day like this, is to always chant Lord Nityananda's name, right? So what does Lord Nityananda want from us today? Today is a Holy Appearance Day. What does he want from us? Well, he wants us to chant the holy name on a day like that, right? Just like he did. And also he wants us to share this knowledge, this process, this holy name with others, right? Because look at what he did. I mean, he transformed the lives of Jagai and Madhai, right? In other words, there's so many Jagais and Madhais. His mood is, you go and preach to them, right? You go and preach to these people. He asked Krishnadas Kaviraj. He came to his dream and told him, at that old age, go to Vrindavan, and there you will get all success. He's so old, right? He's encouraging him. And so all this, mercy and the compassion and this chanting and dancing makes Lord Nityananda so happy all the time. He's full with Ananda. He's full with Ananda. And that's how you see Lord Chaitanya. When Krishna Das Kaviraj got a dream. How was Lord Nityananda looking like? You know, he was constantly moving, intoxicated with love of God, right? He was moving and moving and moving. Right? It said he's like a drunken elephant. I don't know if you've ever seen an elephant in Mayapur, perhaps, yeah, or in Africa. They never are still. They're constantly moving, and that's what Lord Nityananda is. He's constantly moving in love of God, right? So that's, he's always drunken with love of God, right? And in the dream, he sees him, Lord Nityananda, of course, is dancing, moving, but he also sees him with a red stick, and he's twirling it around, catching in different ways, and he's surrounded by cowherd boys who are also flinging sticks and buffalo horns and catching in different ways, right? And they are chanting. What are they chanting? What are they chanting? Krishna, 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 Krishna. So the result of all this service that Lord Nityananda does is that he's always so happy. And this is what we get. When we serve, we also get happy. Anyway, so I think if anybody has any questions, there's 10, or not questions, it's just realizations, anything anybody would like to share, or is it time, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for such a wonderful class. I had a question. You can correct me as in the process. I think, at least for myself, I feel like sometimes when I read, at some point I become overwhelmed with so much that's going on, especially in Srila Prabhupada's books. How can we constantly move like Nityananda Prabhu, Mahajan, and continue to relish and soak in and not get tired or overwhelmed and need a break sometimes?
You mean the reading overwhelms? You mean the literature overwhelms you, or the service overwhelms you?
It could be anything, whatever the limit is for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, Prabhupada gave us a wonderful process of how to balance everything, So we have the process, for the whole day. And in terms of scripture reading, we have the morning class and the evening class. So he kind of paced it out very nicely, right? And the rest of the time we serve, and we also, and also our own personal sadhana. All this is there, right? So if you, if you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe some adjustments may have to be taken, right? But the thing is that when we serve, then sometimes we don't feel like we are relishing, like we don't feel that, like you feel like empty and you feel like you need to do more of the relishing part yourself. Well, it is there. It's just like, Krishna just condenses everything, and makes the milk really thick. And then at a certain point, he's just going to give it to you, you see? So if you are serving day and night, well, it's not like you're losing out. You're going to get it. You're going to get that because Krishna is going to give that condensed. At some point, he's going to give it to you. He's just going to give it to you and say, hey, take it. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
We've got time for at least one or two more questions. Anybody else have a question or comment? Yes. All right. Let's all give Aruddha Mataji a big Hari Bol. Thank you so much for your time. Hari Bol.